The King has been released from hospital following treatment for an enlarged prostate. Charles smiled and waved with the Queen by his side as he left the private London clinic after a 3-night stay. He's thanked the medical team at the hospital and the public for their good wishes. Buckingham Palace says the King has rescheduled public engagements to allow for a period of private recuperation, with reports suggesting he'll return in about a month. Meanwhile, the Princess of Wales also returned home from the same hospital today, almost 2 weeks after being admitted for planned abdominal surgery. She will continue her recovery at home in Windsor and is making good progress, we're told. Kate isn't expected to return to official duties until after Easter. I mean, the whole thing has been, I know it's just a coincidence, but it has been extraordinary. The announcements of both of their procedures, their surgeries happening on the same day, both of them leaving hospital on the same day. We thought that Kate might be tomorrow and we thought that the King would be yesterday. So the fact it's all dovetailed. But of course, two very different situations. One, I mean, David, you'll know better than most of us, quite a normal procedure for a man of the King's age, in his mid-70s, a prostate, enlarged prostate, not cancerous, and so on. Nonetheless, a proper surgical procedure that kept him in hospital for 3 nights, not 2. Kate's something totally different. But just on the King, do we have any better understanding of what he might have been having?
I think, just to go back to how common it is, 50% of men over 50 suffer from this benign prostatic hypertrophy. That's where the prostate gets much bigger. And so,
why are you laughing, Collins?
So,
what's so funny about this?
Because I've gone back into terminology.
Seriously. I know.
Yes.
It's your thing.
You forget that that's how I train.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, so basically 50% of men over 50, 60% of men over 60, and about 80% of men over 70. So incredibly common. So essentially what happens is that the prostate gets too big, you can't wee properly because the urethra is being constricted. So there are lots of things you can do about that, and you get lots of symptoms, which I can go into if you so desire. But what they've done, I think, is a TURP, a transurethral resection. So essentially, you've gone up and you shave a bit of the prostate off to ensure really good flow, because the symptoms are really difficult to deal with. So you tend to go to the toilet more often. You wake up in the middle of the night, you need to go to the toilet more often, and you have to run there because you actually have urgency, so you can't hold it in. You get other things like terminal dribbling, which means that when you've finished, you then have to go again and things like that. So there are lots of symptoms. So
and those symptoms are very inconvenient for anybody, particularly inconvenient for somebody who has as many public engagements and has a very, very busy life.
No, but it's a serious point, actually. I know I've said this many times. My father had prostate repeatedly throughout sort of the last 30 years of his life. He died in his 90s. And I remember many times having this treatment. There was lots of bleeding through the catheter bag, and then he would come out with a bag, with a catheter bag, and then he would be fine, and he would go to the high street and do the shopping, do the supermarket shop. But when you come out from an operation, I'm just thinking about the King and what you probably have a bag on your leg.
Yeah.
And you're still, you are still mobile, but you're just kind of a bit
and I was thinking about this. If you're on a royal engagement, you can't just nip off for a week, can you? So obviously this has been planned for some time, but also in terms of the side effects, of course, yes, you can have bleeding. You can also get infections as a result as well. The best bit about this, he's been really open and honest, and I think that's fantastic. When you look at the numbers, 26,000 more people have gone to the NHS website. Prostate Cancer UK, which I team up with and I do work for them, has seen nearly 10,000 people go on and do their prostate checker to see whether they are
as a result
of
See,
the
that's
King.
the good. You'd never have seen Henry VIII, and I bet he had a dicey prostate. You'd never have seen him talk about it. I mean, joking aside, I think that bit is great. I think the idea that the royals would talk about something that would have been, 30, 40 years ago. Oh, no, we don't talk about down there. So that side of it.
And very, very sweet, the amount of time that Camilla was spending there over the weekend, because that's quite untraditional of the royals as well.
Yes.
They tend to leave their rellies in hospital. They don't really visit them.
I love the bit
David,
that...
sorry, I wanted to ask you, because Emma was saying that her dad had several operations. Is that
I
likely
don't know
in this day and age?
I don't know what your dad actually had.
An enlarged prostate, which then developed into prostate cancer.
So that's why I was hesitant, because obviously they're two different conditions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is to ensure...
It's not likely King Charles is going to have to go in for...
No, so it's benign. We know that. He's told us it's benign, so it's not cancerous. That's really good. My dad died of prostate cancer, so people like me are at very high risk of getting prostate cancer. And that's the whole point of the prostate checker, is to say to people, are you over this age? Do you have a family history? What symptoms do you have? Do you need to come in for a biopsy? And that's why we're reaching out. And that's why
even with prostate cancer, the prognosis is good. It's a slow-growing one. People die with it rather than of it, don't they?
Well, only if you catch it early.
Yeah.
David, can I ask you this? Because I know there's the blood test and then there's the other, I don't want to use the word invasive because it might put people off, but there's the other test that you can have where you look at me like you don't know what I'm talking about.
No, which test are you talking about?
Well,
there are lots of tests.
Rubber gloves.
Oh, you mean rectal?
Yeah.
A rectal examination.
What do you think I'm talking about?
Well, no, but you see, we need to demystify this. You're right.
Well, that's why, because I think a lot of men, I mean, I accidentally had one of those, by the way. Because I went for a medical.
Accidentally have one.
I went for a medical.
Right.
I walked into one of those. You can have a medical in 40 minutes.
Oh, I see.
30 quid. And I went in there, and the guy did my blood. I thought this is fantastic. I was waiting for a train. I was on Waterloo Station.
Okay.
And there was a walk-in medical practice. And in I went. Blood test, heartbeat, blood pressure, all of that. I thought fantastic. He went right. Now we can do the prostate. I went, sorry. And he did the prostate. I was slightly too young probably to have it done, but it was all part of the service. And I think that puts a lot of people off.
Of
I
course.
think if there's any other way of... I mean, that's quite an accurate way, isn't it?
No, well, so in a rectal, what you're feeling for is symmetry, and you want to feel what we call the sulcus, which is a groove at the back of it. Now, the rectal plus the blood test will give you some indication, but actually a much better test is an MRI. And we're trying to roll those out. And if we can get those out, and there's a lot of data about this at the moment, we can then have routine screening because we're not picking up enough men.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ian,
Ian,
that wasn't actually a doctor you saw, I'd like to tell you.
Well, I was at the station and I had an accidental prostate examination.
Or texted, I've not heard from him again. Unbelievable. What happened to chivalry? That's what I'm saying.
But you can guarantee, Ian, he's still telling the story.